The moment the little girl stepped forward, the crowded charity hall seemed to lose its sound, as if the world itself paused to witness what was about to unfold. The air was thick with emotion, heavy with a pain that had lived too long without relief. Faces blurred together, lights shimmered on polished floors, and somewhere between hope and heartbreak, a single truth was about to surface that would shatter a powerful woman's carefully built strength. Before this story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet miracles that can happen when hearts stay open, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach the people who need them most. The woman at the center of the hall was Margaret Holloway, a well-known philanthropist in Chicago, Illinois, admired for her success, her wealth, and her tireless public work. To the outside world, Margaret was composed and unshakable, a self-made millionaire whose confidence filled every room she entered. But beneath the tailored navy dress and steady posture lived a grief that no amount of money could soften. 10 years earlier, her young daughter had vanished from a neighborhood park during a family gathering, leaving behind a life permanently divided into before and after. The case had gone cold despite endless searches, private investigators, and public appeals. Over time, sympathy turned into silence, and Margaret learned how to smile through pain, building charities in her daughter's name as a way to survive the loss. That afternoon, the charity event was meant to be another routine obligation. Cameras flashed, donors mingled, and speeches echoed through the hall, all celebrating generosity and progress. Margaret stood near a large banner displaying photos of missing children, her eyes briefly lingering on one image she knew better than her own reflection. She had learned to keep her emotions controlled in public, to never let the cracks show. But grief has a way of waiting patiently, and it often chooses unexpected moments to rise. Near the edge of the crowd stood a young girl named Hannah Miller, no older than 12, with worn sneakers and a faded yellow sweater that looked too thin for the early winter chill. Hannah had come with her foster mother, tagging along without much interest in the speeches or the polished atmosphere. What held her attention instead was the banner of faces. She stood frozen, staring at one photograph with growing intensity, her small hands curling tightly at her sides. Her heart pounded as memories she barely understood pressed forward, fragments of places and faces she had tried for years to forget. Hannah's life had been a series of temporary homes and unanswered questions. She remembered moving constantly, adults who never stayed, and a woman from her earliest years whose face appeared only in dreams. Therapy sessions had taught her to accept that some memories were gone forever, buried for her own protection. But standing there, staring at the photograph, something inside her shifted. A feeling deeper than logic told her that the girl in the picture was not a stranger. As Margaret finished greeting donors, she noticed movement near the banner. The young girl stood trembling, eyes fixed on the image, her expression filled with fear and certainty at the same time. When Hannah finally gathered the courage to approach, the world around them faded. Margaret turned, prepared for another polite interaction, but the look on the child's face stopped her breath entirely. There was something familiar there, something that bypassed reason and went straight to the heart. The words that followed were simple, almost fragile, but they carried the weight of a decade of unanswered prayers. The girl explained that she recognized the missing child, not from television or posters, but from a place deep within herself. As the realization settled, Margaret's carefully maintained composure collapsed. Years of restraint, of private suffering, of nights spent wondering if her daughter was alive, came crashing down all at once. Tears streamed freely as she knelt, unable to remain standing under the force of hope returning after so long. The room shifted from celebration to stunned silence. Staff members hesitated, unsure whether to intervene, while donors watched in disbelief as the powerful woman openly wept. Margaret's hands shook as she reached for answers she had stopped believing would ever come. Hannah, frightened yet calm, described memories that aligned too closely to dismiss. A blue swing set, a song sung at bedtime, a woman's voice filled with warmth. Details no report had ever made public. Authorities were contacted quietly, and within hours, a process began that would change both their lives forever. Records were reviewed, DNA tests arranged, and long-buried files reopened. Through it all, Margaret remained at the hospital waiting room, staring at the floor, afraid to hope too much and terrified of hoping too little. Hannah sat nearby, overwhelmed by attention but grounded by a strange sense of belonging she had never felt before. When confirmation finally arrived, it did not come with fanfare or celebration, but with tears, apologies, and the slow rebuilding of something once thought lost forever. Hannah was Margaret's daughter. Taken, misplaced by circumstance and broken systems, but alive. The reunion was not perfect or instant. Years apart had carved deep wounds, and trust would take time. But for the first time in a decade, Margaret no longer felt alone in her grief. And for Hannah, the emptiness she had carried without understanding finally had a name and a home. As days turned into weeks, the story spread quietly, not as a headline about wealth or tragedy, but as a reminder of resilience and the fragile power of truth. Margaret stepped back from public life, focusing instead on being present, learning who her daughter had become, and allowing herself to heal without an audience. Hannah began adjusting to stability, therapy, and the overwhelming reality of a mother who had never stopped searching. Just before this story ends, take a moment to comment below and share what you believe matters most in moments of loss and reunion. Your words might help someone who is still waiting for their own miracle. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that hope can survive even the longest darkness, please like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement helps keep stories of compassion, endurance, and love alive for others who need them. Because sometimes, the truth doesn't arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes from the quiet courage of a child, and when it does, even the strongest hearts are allowed to break, just enough to heal.